Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you something a little bit different. So I'm currently bolstering my Krieg forces for the battle report campaign that I'm running on my channel. And in the next game that I need to play, I need another Leman Russ. This isn't a problem for me. I went straight to my room of shame and I pulled out the Leman Russes that I hadn't built yet. 3 of them in cellophane, a demolisher, and 2 normal ones. And I was like, let me just decide which one I want to do. But then I spotted something peculiar, and I thought this might be a fun project. So I found, my plan is to turn this thing, which I think I told my mother to throw this out 3 or 4 times, just get rid of whatever's left in my old room. And somehow, when she sent over the last batch of things she thought I wanted, this was in the pile. So I'm going to turn this from something that I was willing to discard into something that I will cherish. Me, some green stuff, my bits box. Let's see what we can do. I think this is going to be a fun video, so stick around and let me know what you guys think. Enjoy. We start with a close-up of the tank itself, just so you can see how much neglect it has seen. Before I even get started with any repairs, I have to dust it. It is covered in old dust. It sat on a shelf, like I said, unloved and unintended for far too long. So I'll get this thing cleaned up. But as I'm cleaning, you can see all of the old glue lines and stuff. Obviously, back in the day, I put way too much glue on stuff. Some parts are a little bit melted. It's a nightmare. So we start with something I should have done all those years ago. That's proper cleanup. So I'm going to go in and get rid of any of those old mold lines that are still sticking onto the miniature, ruining those beautiful seams. And any extra flash I can find on the miniature I will also cut off, and try and scrape away any of the glue that has kind of gunked up seams and stuff. Somewhere where I've put a little bit too much glue on, I will try my best to clean up those parts and get it looking fresh. As you can see, the front of it is in the absolute worst state. That's where I definitely used far too much glue, melted parts, and I tried to scrape off the glue back in the day apparently, and I did some real damage. So, old tank, old solution. I have the original How to Paint Citadel Tanks book, and flicking to a very particular page, I find the solution not only to the problem, but actually shown off on the exact same part of the exact same miniature, which is we are going to add weld lines to this tank to cover up the damages done. I do believe I went a little bit thick with the green stuff on the weld lines, but weld lines holding together parts of tanks, I think they are allowed to be a little bit bigger, and I don't think it hurt the final product at all. That book has been on my shelf for years. I do look at it all the time. I think it's a stellar resource for any hobbyist to have, and it's a shame they don't have anything like that available at the moment. I have all 3 of them: How to Paint Citadel Tanks, Space Marines, and How to Make Wargames Terrain. Great books. So now I dig in my bits box, I find, or should I say steal, this upgrade sprue from one of my other tanks. I believe one of my basilisks I have in storage. And I start cannibalizing parts that I'm going to need in order to make the Leman Russ look the way I want. I also have the bits boxes I use for my Krieg. Did a huge Krieg project last year and I'm left with lots of parts. Krieg parts are some of the few things that I actually do hang on to, and I do go back to and use as much of them as I can. Even these extra bits left over for my Gorgon may come in handy. Something and things that I just can't throw away. They will definitely be used at some stage. Okay, so one of the things I also added to this is the vents system, basically the air purification additional system that goes onto a Leman Russ tank based on a Krieg world. These are actually quite rare pieces. The upgrade set itself was in its original bag and its original packaging. It was probably worth more than the entire tank itself if you were to go and hunt down this on eBay. But what's the point in having pretty kits in your storage box and not take them out and use them on a project like this? So here's those 3 resin parts added to the tank, and like I said, I think they look fantastic. Also an actual Death Korps of Krieg Forge World upgrade kit for Commander. So I thought these parts would be fantastic to help me fix it up. Like I said, I wanted to basically go whole hog with this tank and add as much gubbins to it as possible to basically make it look as good as I can. So I did some work on the tank commander himself to make him fit a little bit better and flush. He was too deep into the cupola here. So I added a little bit of height underneath him and a little bit of janky, installed some other parts. And when I was done gluing all the bits and pieces to it, this is the result I had for the tank. Already this thing looks like $1,000,000. Like, I was super pleased at this result. I now knew the project was going to work. I just had to not mess up the painting part of it. Like, I already cherished this object. And now I was super excited to soldier on through and see what we could do as goes painting. So it starts like all my Krieg tanks with a solid coat of Chaos Black spray. Once it was sprayed, you can already see that even those weld lines at the front look pretty good. You can't really see any of the old scratches or dings or anything like that. They've all been repaired. And now starts my, I think, 4 stages of airbrushing I do on the tank. I don't do airbrushing on my channel an awful lot, so I'm not going to show you guys it. I'm just going to show you the steps, bang bang. So we start with the dark grey. Just add a little bit of undertone to the tank. Then I go on to an airbrush of the Fang. Quick and easy, nothing special, you don't have to be careful at all. I then dirty that up with a quick sepia wash, trying to target some more of the recesses and stuff. Drop the PSI and the airbrush down way low, so you're not just blowing sepia all over the place. It just stains it and darkens it down a lot. I really like that effect. And then I go back in with another Fang layer, but this one is a much more directional. You're trying to be careful and going between the panels and stuff like that, so that when you're finished, it should look something like this. That's basically the final blue color before we do any weathering and stuff like that. Super pleased with the stroll. I took the opportunity to, of course, add my signature hazard stripe dozer blades, which most of my Krieg tanks feature. As long as I have dozer blades in my bits box, I will add them to Krieg tanks every time I do one. And I think it does add something quite special. Okay, the airbrushing side of things was super fun and super quick, but now it's time to move over to some of the more tedious parts of the painting, which to me on tanks has always been the tracks, whether it's constructing the tank and cutting out and cleaning up all the tracks, or whether it's painting all of those individual tracks. I always find this stage to be an absolute pain. And once I get over that hump in painting, I feel like I'm on the home stretch. Even if it doesn't matter how much painting is left after that, once the base coat on the tracks is done, I'm happy and I enjoy the rest of the process. So I went around finding all the little silver details that I wanted to be silver on the tank, and I went in and did that. I also found all the other details, some red jerry cans, some tan color on any of the tarps, and some wood on any of those tools or handles off the shovel or the pick. What Krieg tank would be would leave the factory without a good old shovel clamp to it. I then washed all of these extra details, including the tracks. A tarp thing on top of the track guard there. I've never actually put that on a tank before. I've seen it a million times on the kit. I didn't know what to do with it or where to put it, but since I was going whole hog on this project, I decided I would go in and paint it properly, or even add it to the tank. Next was one of my favorite stages. I know a lot of people ignore transfers. I do not. I love transfers. I have a whole A4 binder full of transfers and I use them to death. I'm not shy about mixing them as well. This is one of the night transfer sheets, absolutely stunning. I love using parts from this to basically add extra heraldry, and this is my prized transfer thing. It's an original Krieg transfer sheet. These things are super rare. If you want to giggle, you should go look up how much they cost on eBay, but a good friend of mine donated this to me with some extra Krieg bits and pieces, and as such I felt the need to use it as much as I possibly can on every project. I know it's hard to see this particular piece, but this is going to be one of the hardest transfers I've ever done. Transferring that transfer off the paper and onto the dozer blades is going to be a pain, but as you can see, I do like going a little bit heavy on the transfers for the dozer blades and give you something to look at. So here is the transfers applied. I've decided that this tank is 383. It's part of the 23rd Regiment. I've stuck another 383 from behind in case infantry are advancing behind, they know who's where. And here is that transfer applied to the dozer blade before weathering. I think it looks pretty cool. I did ask an Instagram poll before, do I go too heavy on my dozer blades? Some people did in fact say yes. 95% of people thought they looked awesome, but some people did agree that I was like maybe a little bit too hard on them. Did that make me stop? No. Many crazy dozer blades in my future. Next, I give the entire tank a light dry brush of silver, just where the edges would catch
men climbing up and down on them, scratching them against boots or rocks or debris or dirt or anything. War is going to scratch that beautiful blue paint of the tanks. And I think along all the seams and edges is one of the most prominent places to have that done. And I think it just adds that little speck of color. Like, it looks like I've edge highlighted the whole tank here, spent loads of time doing it when I did not. It was a very simple, quick dry brush. And with that, that's pretty much all of the actual tank painted. I then add a little bit of weathering onto it at the end. I'll show you that now. I jump in with some weathering patterns, but like, I'm delighted with this. So I move on to the Humbrol pigment powders. I use dark rust and light rust on my Krieg tanks. I have a love-hate relationship with pigments. I absolutely adore how they look on the model. I despise working with them. It is pure pigment powder. It gets on your clothes. It gets even on your desk. It's hard to wipe up. It's hard to clean. I put a piece of paper down here so it doesn't get on my cutting mat. But even still, when I was finished doing this, I spent kind of 20 minutes with baby wipes wiping my desk down, trying to get all that dust off it. And how many times I wiped, it doesn't matter. It was always red on it after I lifted it up. It was a pain. But I can't argue with the results. And this really just adds that last bit of like weathered, war-torn look to the tank. And that will bring the end of this project to an end. I am super pleased with having this tank in my collection. I'm so glad I never threw it out. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, make sure you drop the video a like. Any comments you have below, I will get back to each and every one of you guys. And if you want to support me or the channel any further, there's links to all of my stuff like Patreon below. Thank you guys so much. So, 2 days ago, this tank was a piece of junk. Literal junk. I considered throwing it in the bin. I considered chopping it up and making a piece of scenery. But then the idea struck me that maybe I can fix it up and show you guys what it's like to restore something to the glory it should have seen many years ago. So this piece, like I said at the beginning of the video, I bought maybe 15 years ago, half built it, and then forgot about it. Left it in my parents' house when I moved out, and now it's this. I'm super proud of the result of this thing. It went from something, like I said, that would go in the bin to something that I will now cherish for years to come. It has become a staple of my collection. It will roll out next to mass ranks of infantry of Krieg in dozens if not hundreds of battles to come. So I'm delighted with this. I challenge you guys to do the same. Do you have anything lying around in a cupboard, in a press, in an old case somewhere that you thought to yourself, I'm never going to get back to that. Eventually I'll give it away, sell it, or throw it in the bin. I dare you, over the course of the weekend, over the course of the week, or whenever you're watching this video, to pull that piece out, spend a little time with it, and see what you can achieve. I promise you, you'll not be upset with the results. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.